For today, we'll be presenting the features of the ECMAScript 6. I'm not sure how many of you already knows about the ECMAScript 6, or it's called the next generation of the JavaScript. So why I choose this to present? Because I'm working for 5-6 years, and still my colleagues are not aware of all next generation JavaScript functionalities actually that we have. So they're using still the standard ECMAScript 5, and it's not always the problem, but sometimes we are facing problems like not having consistent code, not someone is coding some old stuffs, and but the next generation are providing us lots of good functionalities that could be useful for us. So yeah, we will cover like variables and scope, new building methods, the object properties are enhanced, there are new symbols, arrow functions, maps and sets, the structuring, spread, exports and imports, classes, parameter handling, and promises. So the first thing is about the variables and the scopes. There probably most of you already met let and const, but as I still see in the company, there's mostly using, for example, let but never use const and stuffs like that. Anyway, let me tell you the differences first between those two and the standard one, var. So we all know that var is a function-based variable, and yeah. About the let and const, they're block scope. Actually, they're living in a block, which is different from var. For example, I'm not sure how you can see here in the example, but if there is a function and if there are declared two variables and also initialized, for example, var x and var y, and then if there is a block opened, and if we declare again, for example, if we try to declare an initialized var, it will pass. Why? Because it's a function scope and it can do it, and it will be actually the same variable. But if we try to declare initialize a let by let, then it will declare a new variable because it will create a scope over the block, and it will exist only in that block, that variable. So that means that these two variables, actually these two types, var and let, can differentiate between their scopes. On the other hand, for example, const it's more or less similar to let, but the difference here is once you declare and initialize it, then you can never do that again. Why? Because it's a constant. That's the name of the variables, and that means that it will have the constant value. And here we have a small difference for the objects, and that means if we declare an object, then the type is fixed. For example, you cannot redeclare or reinitialize, but you can change the value. Actually, by value changing, I mean you can change the properties of the object, and that's actually very beautiful because you're keeping the type of the variable, but you can manipulate with the data. That means that the value of the object is mutable, but not the type. Yeah, more or less about variables and scoping. That's all. Next is new building methods. So in the new building methods, we have a new object assign. That means that it can be used for multiple things. The first thing is that you can copy values. That means that you can do a deep copy of some object. For example, if we want to copy source to destination, then the source and destination will have different references, which is not, for example, if we say, for example, I'm not sure if you can see the example here on the presentation. For example, if you have let source, for example, 3 equals source 1, that means that those two objects have the same reference, which is not with object assign, because if you do the object assign, both objects will have different reference. So yeah, another is also with the object assign, there are actually the most important parameters that they're accepting. The first one is the target, actually the source, the destination where everything will be copied, and the second one, or many others parameters which are connected, are copying to the first one. So in the source, we are copying the target. So if we have one source and multiple targets, then everything will be merged in the source, actually in the destination, sorry, in the destination. And the destination will have merged properties from all objects. Yeah, that's about object assign. So, another we have find. Find is if we want to find any value, actually to iterate over an array, and we can find any item that we want from that array, and it will return it as an object, as a string, as an integer. Depends what you're iterating, what kind of array. Another thing is find index, same as find, but in this case it will return the index of the item that we are searching. There are also some string manipulations, like repeat. Repeat is, for example, if we want to write, if there is a string test, and if we type repeat 2, then it will return a string which has twice the name of the string, actually the value of the string. Also, we have some other methods like starts with, ends with, which the names shows what's going on. If the string starts with some substring or ends with some substring. Also, we have includes. Includes means that actually checks if a specific string exists in that string. For example, if we search for T in test, then it will return true, that it exists there. Now we have another, like number manipulation. We have new built-in methods in the number wrapper. So if there is a new is finite, that checks if a number is a finite number, which is a new one. Yep, in the previous one we didn't have it. Another one is safe integer. That means if you want to check if the integer is in the safe IE 754 standard. That's just for the checking of the integer. There is also methods like trunc, which removes the decimals from the number, and also sign method, which retrieves the sign of the number. There is an interesting, if you have -0, it will
Are you here, Dimitar? Think we lost him. Can you speak now?
Hear me?
You're okay, I think.
Oh, I don't know. What was the last thing you heard, actually? I don't know how it muted. Someone muted me or?
No, it cannot mute you anyone. Just one thing about the questions. You want, when the questions come, just to stop you and ask the questions, or you want it?
Yes, please. If you have if you have questions, please stop me. Then
there is one question.
Yeah, go on.
How optimized are these methods compared to building our own?
This is the most actually interesting question that I ever think about, because if you think that you can optimize something, then you do it. But I think they're very optimized because, for example, if we are on a real project, we never think to write something. Actually, you don't have the time to write something which will be more optimized, and you can compare the time. But this is very fast actually, and you don't have to worry about this. This is very optimized, so it saves a lot of time and it's fast, so no worries about this. If the project depends on this complexity, then you're fine. The project's the biggest complexities and the other things of the building of the modules and dependencies. That's the most of nesting stuffs. That's the most complexity. So if you ask me, it's very good optimized and to use this one. Of course, depends of the things you want to do. So yeah. Of course, for example, this I don't know, find, you can optimize more by writing your own. Find index, you can optimize it more by writing your own. But of course, you can write lots of lots of other stuffs like nesting, declaring variables inside, which costs time. Yeah. Yeah. Did you hear about this for methods? About manipulating with the numbers, or I was muted when I was talking about them?
I think that the first two I heard, but the next no.
Yeah, okay, so I will mention these two again. So the math trunk is a new method in the math, and it's very useful if you want to remove the decimals, which helps a lot sometimes. Also, the math sign, it's a method which retrieves the sign of the number. And there is an interesting, I said that, but I'm not sure if you heard, there is an interesting thing about this one. For example, if you write -0, it will return minus. I'm not sure why, but yeah, probably it's because of retrieving just the sign of the number. Yep. Also, there are new string manipulations. Actually, by string manipulation, here I'm saying new string interpolation. So that means you can bind different the string. For example, in ECMA 5, you weren't able to write variables, to write new lines, expressions. For example, I'm not sure if it's blurry now here, but if you have an object customer which has a name and a card with amount and unit price, and then you can you can write, I'm not sure how it's called, tilde, it's not a single quote, it's probably tilde called, and you can write a string there, you can write a dollar and curly braces, and then you can bind a variable there, and also you can bind an expression here. For example, if you write card.amount POW card point unit price, then it will return it will return the result of it, and it will bind it to the string, which is very useful and interesting. There are also enhanced the object properties. So there is a new property shorthand and computed property names. So you can see if we have two variables here x and epsilon, then we can bind them to the object without typing x to two dots number or this dot x. So here is enough to write just the name of the variable, and it will know that it will be automatically added as a parameter to the object with the value of that. Also, there is the computed properties. You can write dynamic name of the property name. So you can have a fixed string and a dynamic string. So yeah. So this is actually interesting because we've never seen it before. Now in the new next generation in ECMA 6, we have the symbols. Symbols actually are the newest JavaScript primitive, which brings us lots of benefits, especially to the objects that we are using. So yeah, symbols are, like I said, the primitives, and they cannot be redeclared, they cannot be mutated, and it's interesting that if a symbol is binded to an object, then that symbol is like a private property. It looks like a private property, but you can get that symbol through a few approaches. But anyway, it's used as a private property for now, and it's the most interesting thing about the symbols is that you can use that symbol as a unique key, actually, as unique key. Why unique key? You can say I can write ID 1, for example. Yes, that's true. You can write ID 1, but that's not good. Why? Because, for example, if there are two different libraries and both libraries try to manipulate with some object, and if they try to access that object by the same ID, which we created by ID 1, and we can have a huge risk that both libraries use that ID, and some of them changed it. So it will lose the unique number. But with symbols, it's not that case, because if we declare a symbol and if we add it as a property to the object, then any library that is approaching to that object, they're not able to mutate the object, that property. So yeah, you're safe. You can use it as a unique key, and you can avoid collisions with that. Example operations that are aware of the symbols are reflect on keys. It will return all the keys, including the symbols that are applied to the object, and also like we mentioned, object assign, which is which is used for deep copy. For deep copy, it will copy also the symbol. The operations which ignore the symbols are object keys, which is already known method from the object which returns the keys. So yeah, get on property names, and also if you try to iterate over the object properties through loop, for in loop it will ignore the symbols, which is also good because like we said, we want symbols to be used as a unique keys. Yes, so let's go on the other slide. Yeah, also here we have the arrow functions, which are also new. The most interesting thing about the arrow function is that here it's that the scope of the normal functions that we already know, function name and stuff, yeah, inside, and the scope of the arrow function. I'm not sure if you can see the difference here. There is a difference in the declaration here. The biggest important thing is about the scope they're creating. For example, if we have a normal function which is called a test, and the arrow function which is called a temp, the function creates the normal function. Actually, the normal function creates a scope, their own scope actually, which means that you can declare variables and anything in there, and it will be binded to the context of that function. And on the other hand, with the arrow functions, there is a difference because they don't create a scope. They're inheriting the scope of the parent context. That means if we have an object which has two functions, one normal function, one arrow function, the normal function will create own scope, and the arrow function will inherit the global, the parent scope, actually context. Yep. So yep. So now let's take a look on the map and set. Also, they are new, so most of you probably heard about them in the other programming languages. So yeah, it's the same here. It's the same. Map is a collection of key values pairs, and set is just used to store unique keys there. So previously we were making them with the JavaScript manually by creating the objects and adding them as key value pairs. So yeah, here it's very simple. You just use new map, and it's initialized a new map in yeah, you can use the set method in order to set a new key value pair. And also about the set, you can add you can add items through add actually, and you can bind them as unique keys. Yeah. Next is the spread. Spread is also a new operator which is also very useful, and I'm very big fan of it because it's very useful when you want to create a deep copy of some object. For example, if I have an object and if I want to copy the values from that object and into another object, we can do it like writing 3 dots and the name of the object, and it will automatically copy everything from that object and assign those properties to the new object. You can also extend it with another properties. Yeah, it's also used for the arrays. For example, you can see that here you can you can take the items from the array and add to another array. So yeah, also there is interesting that we can manipulate with the properties. For example, if I write 3 dots object, and if I use one of the property from the object that we are copying through spread, for example, if I write here x5, then it will assign 5 to that variable, and it will merge it with the property from the object that we are copying. Yep. Next is the imports and the exports. So if there is front-end engineers on the call, you can see that probably that you already use those, because in the modern projects, while we are using the frameworks, we are most of the time we are using exports and imports. That means that it doesn't have to be used only with the frameworks. We can use them in our own JavaScript projects. So why export and imports? Because they're enabling us to use the modularity of the projects, actually to keep the code as most of the design patterns of module focused. The code is a lot manageable, because you can split the code in many different JS files, and then you can manage those codes very easily. You won't end up with big files. You can and also you can easily communicate with those functions. For example, if you create some, let's say, helper 1, helper 2, helper 3 functions, then you can split, for example, let's say as helper handling dates, handling, I don't know, anything that you can come upon your mind, and you can just export anything you want. You don't have to export everything. You can have private functions there. For example, you can have a private function get date, which is only to that library, to that JS file, and you can export only another method which manipulates with that date. For example, get a year, for example, and you can export only that, and then importing in another project. So yeah, with the next generation, there is another very good improvement, which is mostly of the time is very good for the engineers that are coming from the object-oriented programming languages like .NET, Java, and stuff. And it's very easy for them, because they can write here very similar code, but still we have lots of differences with the other languages. For example, here with the classes, we actually let's say why they are created in the first place. So in the first place, they're created to replace the objects constructors. So yeah, they're replacing those objects that are used as constructors. They're here to replace the prototypes and provide, of course, the better readability to be understandable for everyone. So here the classes supports few things like inheritance, constructors, supercalls, instance, and static methods and properties. That's the things that the classes support. Yeah, so let's say that we have a class animal, and like in all other languages, we have a constructor which initialize the name of the animal, and we have a method which is used for speaking, like speak, and we have another, actually a real animal, dog, which extends the animal. So we can, of course, through the constructor of dog, we can call the super constructor from the animal, and of course we will override the speak method here. So if we create an instance from, if you create an instance from doc, then it will call the constructor for animal because we are calling in the doc through super that constructor, and it will set the string as a name. And of course, it will if we call speak method, then it will activate the speak method from the doc. For example, if we didn't have speak method in the doc, it will automatically take the inherited method from the parent, actually, from the method that we are inheriting.
There is one question.
Yep, go on.
Actually two. First one is, what is better to use in vanilla JavaScript, function or classes?
If you ask me, functions. Why? Because this is converted in vanilla JavaScript, and it adds a lot of boilerplate code. So this is translated, and because it's translated, it adds lots of code that it's not useful for us. Because you can, for example, you can do this in another approaches. But there is but if you decide that your whole project will use the classes, that then it will be very good, because maybe you will, on some places, maybe you will lose some speed of the application, but you will gain lots of advantages from this thing. So depends on you, but my approach is that I love the vanilla JavaScript. So I can, because with this you don't have that much control. You are writing, and it will bundle in the JavaScript at the end. But with the JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, you have the power of the JavaScript. Actually, the JavaScript offer us a lot of power, but with this we are limited. So yeah. And
perfect, thank you. And another one is, how does the speak method work?
Yeah, like in all other languages, like I said, for example, if you have an instance doc from the doc class, the speak method is actually, if I call speak from doc, it will call the speak from the doc. If I remove the speak, and if I still call from doc speak, it will use the inherited method. If I didn't have this one from the doc speak, it will use from the animal speak. It's the same like it's the same like in .NET, for example. So yeah. Okay, so, and we will go on the promises here. Yeah, promise object represents the eventual completion of or the failure of the asynchronous operations. So yeah, here we have a new object which has three states, like pending, fulfilled, and rejected. All three states shows us the state of the promise, that it's current. Pending, yeah, of course, it's neither fulfilled nor rejected. It's in the middle state. We are waiting to be fulfilled or rejected. Yeah, fulfilled is that it's completely successful, and rejected that it failed. Yes, with new promise, you can create a new promise, and you can create your own promise, like a fake promise with it. And also there is a very useful thing like promise all, which means that if you have multiple promises, then you can combine them and wait until all of them are resolved, and then through an array you can use the results of the promise. So yes, Do you have other questions? I think we are exactly at the end, 45 minutes. So yeah, if you have questions, yeah, feel free to